Hey,
Question for Coach.
James, the freshman offensive linemen that came in the winter, how have they progressed that you've seen from spring ball to the current point, and how has Chimdy been doing and what's his first summer with Penn State? So,
yeah, they've done well. You know, a lot of you guys have heard me say this before. Typically, the further you are away from the ball, the easier it is to get on the field. So corners and wide receivers, safeties, things like that. In there, it's a totally different world. 17 and 18 years old compared to 21, 22, 23 is very different. The speed, the size, there's not too many guys like that in high school they go against. So it's a huge adjustment. And we've had some guys that have been able to do it, like Shelton last year. But I think they're all adjusting well. Obviously, Chimdy was at a little bit of a disadvantage not being here. Not only in the spring, but he didn't get here, I think, until summer 2 as well. So challenging. But the reality is we don't need those guys ready. We don't need those guys ready now. We need them guys ready, by game 4, by game 5, ready to really help us. So they're getting a ton of reps right now. We've done some modification, as you can imagine, with Olu's reps, which helps those guys, creates a ton of more opportunities. So still work in progress, but we feel good about it.
James, when you look at your defensive ends, I know Visa and Chop, you get asked a lot about that. Can you assess Denai's progress this offseason? And also, Vanover, I think, is a guy that's been productive when he's gotten games. Where is he at kind of defensive end?
Denai, I thought really from the spring on, really has been doing well. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's determined. Had a really good freshman year, and it's just kind of continued to build off of that. But I think the other guys you bring up, Zariah Fisher is back, really 100% in terms of how he looks, pre-injury. And Amin's a guy that's always flashed tremendous potential and is doing it on a more consistent basis right now. So we feel really good about that defensive end room. We'll see. Obviously, this thing will continue, and we'll get a scrimmage opportunity here coming up, so we'll have a better evaluation. But so far, so good. But that also goes to your question about those tackles you mentioned. They're going against a really good defensive end group in practice every single day.
James, at the center position, how is Hunter Norzad developing in that transition? And then Nick Dawkins back about a full year removed from injury. How's he progressing?
Yeah, we really look at Hunter and Olu is kind of like the foundation of the O-line. I think Caden is starting to work into that category, and so is Sal. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Just about his development at center, and then also
I'm sorry. And then Nick Dawkins has done really well. He's big and strong. He's one of the better guys in the weight room, especially with lower body strength. He's extremely intelligent. He's also really verbal, as you guys have probably had a chance to get around him, so he doesn't mind speaking up. And at that position, you need somebody that's going to be vocal and make calls, and he's kind of the quarterback of the O-line. So he had a really good rep today in one-on-one, so he's progressing nicely.
When you say that Caden's,
Sorry, go ahead.
You said Caden's turning towards being a foundational player on the offensive line. Is that an indication of where that right tackle competition?
Yeah, I think we've all seen flashes of Caden as maybe as good as any tackle in the country. He's just got to do it more consistently. He's got to do it more consistently.
Hey, James, I want to ask you something that Jerry Carter said on the show the other night.
I didn't watch the show, you see.
I did. Okay. I have a transcript if you want. It's really long. He said it was so hard to get a feel for Bo today because he never really went with the ones. Did Jerry just not see everything, or how much run is Bo getting with the ones?
It's a mix. I would say Drew's getting predominant the majority of the reps, but I think he is getting a few. But I would say Drew's getting the majority of them.
James, how far has Chop come in the last year? How has he benefited from being in the weight and strength and training program for all this time?
Yeah, he's just so much bigger, stronger, and more explosive, both in the run game and the pass game. Playing really well. He's confident. You know, how we used him last year was different than how he'd been used before. He's doing really well academically. He's really thriving right now, and I'm really proud of him. I think he's going to have a huge year. They talk about that DN room. I think our DN room is really good. I think it's in the argument for one of the better DN groups in the conference and maybe the country. But I'm really proud of him. Really well-rounded. He's killing it right now, and he's just bigger and stronger. He's anywhere between 255 and 257 pounds. So, you know, maybe 8 pounds more than he was last year. So, and it's really good weight, explosive, lean mass.
James, the open practice is something new that you're doing. You touched on a little bit at media day, but can you explain what the value is of that to the program, and what are the logistical challenges of trying to do it in this area?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do it, but it's one of those discussions, and we have it as a staff, and maybe one year one coordinator doesn't want to do it because he's got a new wrinkle he doesn't want out there, or another coordinator doesn't want to do it. You know, to be honest with you, we were going to have this down at State High. I thought it'd be really cool downtown in the middle of the city, but their turf wasn't done in time for planning purposes. So then we looked if we could transfer it here. I think there's value in playing in Beaver Stadium. I also think there's value playing in front of a crowd to see how some of these young players are going to respond to that. And then I just think it creates some excitement in the town and in the city and, you know, in the state. So I think there's a lot of positives to it. Obviously, the thing that I think is going to be important, and I'm going to need your guys' help on, is we're going to have rules, and people got to follow the rules. If people don't follow the rules, then it's going to ruin it for everybody. And although we'll state the rules, it really is going to be important for you guys to police everybody, not the fans obviously, but you know, the media, that everybody's following the rules the best possible. You're smirking.
Oh, just following the rules. That, you know, that's
Gotcha. Yeah, that'll be important because obviously it'll impact how much we do for next year.
Do you feel like you have as many game-ready guards as you've had? I don't want to say your whole entire time here, but at least the last couple of years. Do you feel like the competition you've seen so far in camp is where you want to be in those spots?
Yeah, I think we do have more depth and competition at guard. I think that's probably more common here and probably more common nationally. Tackles are the hardest guys to find, the body types, athleticism, to be comfortable on the edge in that space. But yeah, I think we're in a much better position. And then there's some swing guys that I also think are really important. We think JB could play both guard. He played tackle in junior college. We think he could do a little bit of that here as well. So we have some body types that we think can do that, but they need the reps.
How do you know if a veteran can turn that corner from a guy that's flashed into somebody that is consistent and breaks out to what you thought he could be when you first recruited him? How do you know a guy who has kind of proven his one thing can evolve into something different, kind of like Caden?
Well, I think that's our job, right? You know, if they flash examples of high-level play, then it's our job to find a way to get that player to do it on a more consistent basis. I think Caden, in terms of strength, size, athleticism, is as good as you're going to find. I'd recruit Caden Wallace and his family every single year. It's our job to help him do it on a more consistent basis by demanding it at practice every single day. Obviously, there's some ownership in the player as well, but it's our job to find a way to get that out of him.
James, have you been pleased with how Keandre has shown leadership this camp? And what clicked for him those last 2 games last year? What sort of got him?
Yeah, I think Keandre is another guy, right, who's flashed brilliance at times. And again, you know, consistency. I also think it's opportunities. Those last 2 games, he got some more opportunities. You know, but the targets you do get, you got to maximize them. There's going to be some games you're going to get 6 targets. There's going to be some games you're going to get 12 targets. You got to maximize those targets. There's going to be some that you're caught, you catch in open space. There's going to be some that, you know, they're contested catches, and you got to come down with those. So I think he is progressing well. I think there's a really strong relationship being built between him and Coach Hagens. But I think he will, and we need him to have a big year for us this year. And I think him and Trey have a chance to do that for us.
You've mentioned a lot depth so far this camp and kind of going back into the summer. Has that allowed the team to be more physical, more aggressive in practice than maybe years where you had guys that were banged up and you didn't want to push things at certain positions?
Yes, also there was a national waiver that we were able to bring 10 more guys into camp. We've only been able to bring 110 into camp, which has always created some awkward conversations. In today's college football, it doesn't make sense to do that anymore. Everybody's here all summer. So to have a conversation where you can't bring a kid into camp, it doesn't make sense. So I think there's a push to change that rule. This year we were able to get a modification of the rule. We get 10 more guys into camp, so that has helped. But then back to the depth I'm talking about, like we're two spotting right now. That was the plan going into camp. So I have 2 team periods going on at the same time, either 1s and 4s and 2s and 3s, or 1s and 2s and 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s on a different field. So the amount of reps really haven't improved for the 1s, but the amount of reps for the 2s and 3s have gone up dramatically in terms of getting those guys prepared. So I think there's been a ton of value in it. And to your point, I didn't know how long we'd be able to do it. I thought you'd start out doing it and then you'd get a couple bumps and bruises and you'd have to get away from it. We're still doing it. And I think it's been really valuable for the development of our younger players.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
James.